What is up, UW fantasy football players? Here we are. So glad to see you guys. We just finished week 6 of the 2010 season, and what a treat we have for you today. First of all, it's good to be back with my partner in crime here, Ryan. Ryan just got back from Tanzania. Good trip, Ryan?
Oh, it was a great trip.
Just so you guys do know, we do other things besides fantasy football here. So Ryan was just out there with Levi, and they had a good time out there training pastors and doing real ministry, which is what we do the majority of the time here, just in case you guys were wondering. I just got back from Illinois last week, so we've had a lot of fun. Amy did one, I did one, Ryan did one, and it's the perfect time that we could all be back together because we've never had more fantasy football discussion and debate in the office than we have in the last 48 hours. And I think most of you know why. But before we get into that, let me just say a couple fun things that happened this week. First of all, huge congratulations to Jenny Cash, who got her first win of the season. Give her a huge hand. Now, she got it because she played Jocelyn, which we'll get to in a minute. But she did get her first win, and we're so happy for you, Jenny. I hope you like football again because I know with the Chargers, as pathetic as we are right now, that you've had a pretty rough football season. So congratulations for your first win, Jenny. We're happy for you. And also, Ryan Newton, dude, you just made our day, man. Like when you changed your team name, it cracked me up. So if you guys haven't checked it out yet, the Mr. #1 Dallas Cowboys fan changed his team name after their, I think, were they 1-4? What are the Cowboys?
Yeah, they're 1-4.
1-4 now after they lost to the Vikings last week. He changed his team name to #1 draft pick 2011. So I don't know who the projected #1 pick is right now, but Cowboys are the front runners for him. So Ryan, that's why I love you, man. You're just always keeping it light and having a good time with us. So anyway, to the good stuff. Last Saturday, I think, where was I? I was at home and I started getting some emails and I was checking them and I saw some trade proposals going through. And I could not believe what was in front of my eyes. Ryan and I have discussed it now in the last couple of days. Ryan, what we're going to do mostly in this podcast is just talk about trades and what's going on right now and just kind of our opinion a little bit on the league at this point.
Okay. So before we get into all this, I just want to let everyone know that don't get mad. I probably will have some impassioned statements to make about the trades.
Impassioned statements.
That's right.
That's not even a word.
I just made it up, but it's going to work. And so let's get into trades. What I'd like to do is go through all the trades, and you kind of just tell me fair or not fair.
Right, because I think we got to make sure we understand. The point of a trade is supposed to be that yes, it helps your team out. You wouldn't make a trade if you didn't think it helped your team out. But you do it in a way that you're also offering something that you don't need, maybe you have extra of, that helps that person out. For example, if I have extra running backs on my bench, they became good trade bait for me. So I'm giving this person somebody that's a good player. I just didn't need them anymore because I was getting something that I needed. That's just like the basis of what trades are.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's where I'm fair or not fair on these. Just so you guys know.
Let's start.
Yeah.
First trade of the year happened like day 2.
Right.
Jerome Harrison, or James Harrison, whatever you call him now, for Steve Slayton.
Okay. At the time, a little off one way, but it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
Slayton's a backup, Harrison's hurt, and Peyton Hill's their starter. It was just kind of one of those fun trades that didn't really matter to anybody. No big deal.
Nothing there. Okay, next trade. Michael Crabtree for Terrell Owens.
Now, this was you and Jocelyn.
Yeah.
This is actually, when it happened, I thought Jocelyn got the better end of the deal, and T.O.'s looked pretty good since then. Crabtree's had 2 touchdowns in a row the last 2 weeks. They're starting to throw at him a little bit more, but T.O.'s had 3 monster games this season, so completely fair trade. Yeah, a good starting wide receiver for a good starting wide receiver.
Okay. Next trade that happened was Mark Sanchez for Carson Palmer. A wash.
A wash. 2 quarterbacks, doesn't matter.
And then the next trade was Larry Fitzgerald and Clark for Ahmad Bradshaw and Vernon Davis.
Okay, you got 4. I mean, whether we like it or not, personally, that's still a fair trade. It's 4 good players. It's 4 quality starters every week based on the teams that had the needs there. I'd say pretty good trade. Pretty good trade.
Okay. Now we get into the ones that are a little more controversial. So we'll start with the Meacham trade for Mendenhall, Beanie Wells, and Jacoby Jones.
Yeah. See what you got to think. Everybody's like, oh, even I said it on the podcast. Amy Lynn, I thought you stole Chris Johnson. I didn't mean that in a negative way, as in it wasn't fair at all. I just thought you got the better end of the deal because Chris Johnson is such a high player. Whereas at least Beanie Wells and Rashard Mendenhall are quality running backs.
They became her 2 starters.
Right.
She lost 1 starting running back, stud running back, for 2 starters.
Who do give points. I think Amy still got the better end of the deal because she got Chris Johnson, so that's why I called it a steal. Not highway robbery.
Okay.
Not you beat down somebody and took their like penny out of their pocket and took it. It just meant she got the better end of the deal. And Meacham, the funny thing was Meacham was kind of a throw in there, and he's had a couple
good
he's
weeks,
had 2 good games in a row. So yeah, I'm not gonna. It was. I think it was slighted, but it wasn't unfair.
That was right. It worked out for all of it. If I put myself in Jenny's spot right there, I would have clicked yes on that trade if I had the offer, because it made her team 3 or 4 points a week better.
Yeah, I wouldn't, because I just value Chris Johnson a lot, but it's not the end of the world.
Okay.
You can see we're getting a little worse though as we're going here.
The next one, Kevin Walter for Jason Snelling. It was a really stupid trade.
Unfair.
A really stupid trade because Snelling doesn't play. That was the same week that what's his name came back healthy, which we'll be talking about quite a bit later.
Michael Turner.
Michael Turner. So
yeah, and Jacoby Jones, who was supposed to be the number 2 receiver for Houston, is now like the number 5 receiver, and Kevin Walter is the main guy outside of Andre Johnson now. So that was an unfair trade.
Right. Okay.
We're getting worse.
Okay, now we're getting to the ones that were people started a couple arguments here. The first one was Terrell Owens for Forsett and Meacham.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's where Meacham came in. Now that was a bad trade, okay? Unfair because of what happened later that week. Now when the trade was made, Justin Forsett still was the starting running back for the Seahawks, which later after that trade went through, they acquired Marshawn Lynch, and Forsett's now not going to get those carries. Had that happened, it would have been completely unfair. And it still was pretty unfair, but we started to see that Jocelyn, who she just saw the trade and clicked yes on it. I think this is where it all went downhill, because people saw that she traded away T.O. for what did not seem to be very fair at the time, because Meacham hadn't done anything to that point in the season. And Forsett is just a mediocre running back at best on a bad team.
As a starter, he was lucky to get 6 points a game. So.
Correct. And T.O. was coming off a week where he had like 20 points.
Right.
So I thought that was pretty unfair, and we saw that maybe
and I talked about that last week. That ended up having her lose the week. She would have won the week if she wouldn't have made the Owens trade, and she would have kept Sean Hill instead of starting Josh Freeman or whoever she was. So we had talked a little bit about that one, and why I thought that wasn't unfair and a dumb trade anyway, because you're playing that team. Now we're going to get into the ones that really start to bother me a little bit. This next one doesn't bother me near as much, and we'll explain a little why. It's Hakeem Nicks for Kyle Orton.
Yeah, at this point, Jocelyn had Jay Cutler, then she lost him, then she had another quarterback, lost him. She was starting Josh Freeman, and then all of a sudden, somebody, I think it was Mike, right? Yeah, Mike offered her Kyle Orton, which was a fair trade because she needed a quarterback. So again, he was kind of playing by the rules of, he saw a need she had no quarterback. Now, he got the better end of the deal because Nicks is emerging as the number 1 receiver on that team for sure. And he's their touchdown guy.
Yeah, and the problem is looking at the point difference between Hakeem Nicks and no receiver as your starting receiver, or Jay Cutler or whoever you have, and Orton is not going to be a big enough.
Right, yeah. Freeman's going to still get you 7 to 10 points a game. Orton's might get you 15. The difference there is not worth giving up.
But that trade, you could see maybe in another league.
Right.
Like a league that's not a UW Christian league. Yeah. You might see it every now and again. You're like, oh, okay.
Right, but still, I think we're starting to see that this progressively is getting worse and worse and worse.
Okay. And now we're going to go to the next one that's had quite a bit of